Hi, you guys. Hey, it's good to see you today. Hey, so I wanted to drop in. I was thinking about this topic and just wanted to kind of share my thoughts with you. So I was thinking about how just some people cost too much, right? And, I don't mean that to sound harsh or anything like that, but, just actually there are people out there who just cost too much for us. So in the long run, maybe it's not financial that they cost us too much, but it's maybe emotional. Maybe they are costing us way too much emotionally. Maybe they cost you your peace, your self respect, your confidence, your energy. Sometimes they cost you the relationship that you have with yourself. So when you start to see that these things happen with a person that you're around and they're really pulling that energy from you, you have to ask yourself, is this person costing too much for me, right? To have them around or in my life. And a lot of times the answer is, usually right in front of you, especially if you're feeling that emotional drain, right? So, eventually though, you gotta really stop and look at this, and maybe the good question to ask yourself is, what are you sacrificing just to keep this person in your life? you know and that's a big question to ask, and it's hard, and I get it. It's not something that, a lot of us want to stop and think about, but if you're constantly like feeling like, you can't be yourself around this person, no matter what you say or no matter how you say it, it is being misinterpreted and being spun into something different that you were actually not meaning, and you're constantly questioning, where do you stand in this relationship? What is your value even in this relationship? I mean, are we sure that it's worth to continue to try and give of yourself to be worthy of their love, right? I mean, we can only give so much to people. So again, are these people costing us too much to have them in our lives? It's not fair to us. And at some point we have to stop and just think, what is this relationship costing me, and what is it doing to me on an emotional level? Am I losing sleep at night? Am I getting up in the morning worried about the fact that all of this happened last night? Am I going to go through this again in 3 days, right? Or is it going to happen again tonight? Am I starting to lose confidence in my ability to, handle myself the right way? Am I becoming someone I don't recognize? Because so many times, when you're around another person who is just draining you and putting you through all of these situations, and you start to not even recognize yourself at the end of the day. And that could just mean because you don't even know who you are right now because you're so concerned about them. Or it can also mean that your reaction to them is also costing so much of who you are as a person. And that's not good. It's not good. So, and are we always making excuses for this person? Like, hey, it's okay. This is just how they are. I mean, maybe that is just how they are, but that isn't up to us to make those excuses on how maybe we're being treated. A lot of times, we're so afraid that, we are going to say the wrong thing, and then they're going to leave, right? I mean, we don't want them to leave. So, we get so afraid of that just because so that's why we're being so cautious about what we're saying and how we're saying it. But the problem is we don't realize in the moment that we are completely losing ourselves. And generally speaking, by that point, you've already lost yourself, you know? Oh, and I'm sorry, but that is just that cost, that expense, it's too high. It's too high to have someone in your space. That's not fair to you. You can love somebody, you can love them with all of your heart and still recognize that they're not good for you. You can care about someone to the end of the earth and decide that you need to walk away. And you can miss them all the time, and know that maybe, you had these special times. And I'm not saying every time was awful, but you can miss them, and you can tell yourself, I miss them, without needing them back in your life, So I want you to ask yourself, is keeping this person costing you more than losing them would? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. Because sometimes letting someone go isn't about losing, and it's not losing. Sometimes it's about gaining yourself back. And man, at the bottom of the day, the end of the day, not the bottom, but the end of the day, you're worth getting back. So remember that.